Hey, I got him in the studio and I have you as well. Thank you for being a part of the stream show tonight. And I have Bradley Vinson. You see him right here. I mean, such a cool guy. If you're coming on tonight and you're hanging out with us, please let me know. Check in with us. Let me know where you're watching from. And 100%, I am excited about tonight's show. Bradley, how have you been?
Been doing good, man. It's been a little while. Been a little while.
It
Had a chance
has
to
been.
chop it up and hang out with you, man. So yeah, good to be here.
So, uh, we met probably what? How many years ago now? 2, 3 years ago. I have a problem with the pandemic years. I don't really know,
Yeah, yeah.
what 2 or 3 years is like. It all is like one big long year to me. But we met during
Right.
the
During the
what
heavy
was that?
pandemic years,
Yeah,
man.
during the pandemic. During the pandemic.
And really,
So,
that was what 1920-ish. So it's been
hmm
3 years, man. Yeah.
yeah. So there we go. The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah. I'm not a DJ. Not a DJ.
There
Music
we
lover
go.
though.
And then
Yeah.
we got some people checking in. Say hello to Ecamm. Hello to you guys. Come on in. Let me know where you are watching from. We have a great show. But before we get started, as people are checking in, I definitely um, thank Bradley for all of his hard work, being a good friend. Like some of the things, some of the scenes that I have right now, I want to say it the right way, that some of the scenes that we have for the stream show came because of your help. I remember Brant reaching out to you and saying, hey, we saw this thing on CNN. We wanted to do it. You say, hey, tell me what it is. And you sent it right to us. Like you duplicated it within no time.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I love the challenges. I love kind of, because it gets kind of old hat for me, right? Kind of like the
Right?
cobbler's kids have no shoes kind of thing, right? And so you just kind of you don't make stuff for yourself, but I love when somebody says, "Hey, I'm thinking about. Hey, I'm trying." I'll jump in on that in a second. I love doing that. So
Well, that's what it's all about. So we got some people that absolutely love Ecamm. Use it every day. I stream 10 hours a day, trading days. Love the software. Well, absolutely, we love it too. Sauce is Boston, Massachusetts. That's what's up. Thank you for hanging out with us. And Dan is like, congrats on the new role. Bradley, I don't know if I told you this. I did post it. And I'm with a new, well, it is a music organization. They do studios and they also put on productions, and I am now the new vice president of operations and marketing. So I
that's
have a
cool, man.
new role, something else to do. When I
Congratulations.
say I'm busy, Bradley, it's only because I keep taking on new roles, but I love doing it. Dallas, Texas is in the house. Tech
Hey, that's
troublemaker.
a neighbor of mine, Dallas, Texas. That's right down the road.
There you go. So, Tech Troublemaker is checking in. Mr. Camera Junkie says hello to everybody. And I got somebody on from Michigan. Atkins. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what's up. So he
Pontiac.
says, yeah, so what we got? San Diego, but just drove to, and he loves Bradley
Tijuana.
Head.
I guess he got one of these hats.
Well, there you go. Rainy Cajuns checking in from
I'm
San
from
Diego.
Tijuana.
Need someone to talk me down after sticker the Saints put up to date. Well, hey, it is what it is. The Saints are who they are. Who was that? Who that? Well,
Who
that's
dat? The original Who dat, man. I'm a
yeah,
Louisiana
yeah.
boy, so yeah. So they didn't win today. The Saints didn't win.
I'm not sure. I
Yeah,
haven't
are they
watched
disappointed
football
because
at
Saints
all.
lost? Or they say disappointed because Saints beat their team? I don't.
We
Yeah, I'm
got to
not sure
figure
which
that
one
one
that
out,
was.
huh?
Yeah, I had to figure that one out.
World Piano Man. Great to meet Dallas neighbor. There you go. Oh
There you
man,
go.
you gotta love people that are willing to hang out with us from the UK Daily Reflections. Thank you so very much for hanging out on the stream show. I am hoping today that as people are checking in, that they've looked at the description and what we're talking about, Bradley, and hopefully they're not confused with what I have done as far as the thumbnail when I say it's content transitions. Like, I don't want you to think about scene transition. We're not doing like transitions. Of course, there is a thing inside of Ecamm. Like, you could do some transitions between scenes. What we're talking about today, if you are on and you're really, really having a tough time and you think that you need to change the content that you are making. Like, I need to change the content. I don't want to build a new channel. I want to do something different than what I have been doing. We're going to go through Bradley's story. And of course, he has been known to do graphics and being such a big help for all of us. But now he's transitioning a little bit to do something different. And we're going to talk about that tonight. I wanted to say today and tonight at the same time, and it just came out crazy. But tonight, Bradley, um, when we met, of course, years ago, you were doing graphics and, of
Hmm.
course, helped the stream show. Now, you have Bradley Teaches. You've had some small group trainings where were teaching people how to do graphics, but you've also, in a professional sense, have been doing grief counseling, have worked in a church, and all this stuff. Let's talk about the professional side of Bradley, and then we'll talk about the graphics, and then we'll talk about the transitions, okay? Because I don't think
Yeah,
people know a lot about who you are other than the graphics teacher.
yeah. Appreciate that, man. So yeah, back when we met, and probably when I met the Ecamm fam, as we call it, during the pandemic, I was actually something else then. And I'm kind of getting back to that. So, long story short, I'm a minister and I'm also a grief coach. And that was the calling on my life right before the pandemic. It really started late 2016. My profession is graphics, my calling is ministry. So, I'll just say it that way.
Got you.
But the pandemic happened, sent us all home, and it kind of prevented me from going out and speaking at churches and things like that. And so I kind of leaned back into what I thought was, well, what I feel is easier, if you want to use that as a word. And that's kind of like my talent, my profession is doing graphics. And when I got into the Ecamm fam and people started asking questions, graphics work is light work. Graphics work is fun work. It's not as heavy as doing the grief work, right? And so when I started doing that, those that know me from way back at the beginning of my time with Ecamm, I would always start off by saying, "Hey, I'm Bradley Vinson, also known as Alana's Pawpaw," and people would
I remember that. I
often
remember that.
call me in the comments, "Hey, Alana's Pawpaw, hey, Alana's Pawpaw." What they didn't know is the reason I would always say that is because my granddaughter could no longer say it.
Wow.
Uh, and so I would say that's who I was because she's no longer on this earth with us. She passed away in 2016 in an accident. And that's what started my journey as being a grief coach, grief counselor, things like that, right? But I didn't bring all that heaviness into Ecamm, but I would always kind of throw out, "Hey, I'm Bradley Vinson, Alana's Pawpaw," right? Or "See you guys next week." Signing out, Bradley Vinson, also known as. And I would say that, kind of give myself a pep talk to remember her and to say her name, and knowing that she can never say my name again. So that's kind of where that came from. And I wouldn't push it on people. I wouldn't do things like that. I think Ecamm at one point did a little bio on me when they had the little bios about people, and I talked about it then. But unless you watch that, there was no other indication of who I was outside of Bradley Teaches. And not that I was hiding it, but I felt the two things didn't mix, right? But as I told Strick before tonight's show started, I always consider myself as a servant, and Bradley Teachers allowed me to serve people with graphics, right?
Got you.
My grief work allows me to serve people that are going through grief. And so that never changed about me. I just always felt like I was a servant, helping people meet their needs, encouraging people, empowering people. But it's amazing that as I've been going through this as a graphics guy, the kind of people that are attracted to me and I'm attracted to, like Strict, right? It's all these good people coming into my life through Ecamm, but it's like a thing that like, man, it was just something about you. And they
Right.
didn't know the other thing about me, right?
Right.
That was always kind of bubbling up behind it. And so as time has gone on and life is moved is moving forward. Last year, I had another kind of family tragedy. We're not here to talk about all that, but I had another family tragedy. But last year, one of the words as I go into this year, I've never done that. What's your theme for the year thing? Never done that ever in my life that I can recall.
Got you.
But at the end of last year, the word legacy just kept hounding me.
Hmm.
Legacy, legacy, legacy. And with that, I just sat down and I thought, Bradley Teaches is great. Doing graphics is great. But if something happened to me right now, would I want to leave behind a bunch of tutorials and graphics? Or would I want to leave behind something that's going to really help change people's lives? And not that graphics can't do that, but to me, I wanted to lean back into the area that my heart is in, and that's my grief work. That's what I
Got
feel
it.
my legacy work is. And so that's been my big content transition change. Bradley Teaches will still exist. It won't be out as front as it used to be. It's going to be more automated now. Just kind of drop by my store and get stuff if you want it. I'll be popping in like I used to. No, not like I used to as
I get
much.
it.
Uh,
Can,
so it's
can, I,
that
can
kind of
I
thing.
let me interrupt you here in your story
Mhm.
that you're telling, because when the pandemic happened, uh, I want to be sure I set the table right because you're being extremely modest. You came into the Ecamm community and you were helping build graphics. I don't know if it was every week that you were on at some point, but not only were you with Ecamm, you also transitioned to work with another company. Like you got a couple of brand deals during this time
Yeah.
where you've been a graphic artist professionally, and now coming into the content creation part, people needed to know how to do graphics. So you were teaching people how to use Keynote, which all of the Mac users had on their computers for free. So yes, you were a servant to us, but your servitude during those couple of years allowed you to have a platform that you were able to monetize, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. So I truly have, because Bradley Teaches is not going completely away, but I'll say I truly have a community built business.
Wow.
Um, I was doing it all for free. I was just kind of doing my thing and hanging out. And the community said, this has value. We want to pay for it.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't even know what to charge for this stuff, right? Then the community says, this has value. It's great that you're on Facebook, but we need your videos somewhere where we can easily find them.
Right.
So I made a YouTube channel. And before I uploaded one video, I had 100 subscribers because
That's
the
amazing.
Ecamm fam showed up and it's like, I said, hey, there's nothing there yet, but I just started a channel. 100 subscribers right off the bat. And I'm like, okay, let me start loading this stuff up. And before I was even monetized on YouTube, brands came calling. They said,
Wow.
hey, we see what you're doing for I won't name the other folks because they're competitors. We see what you're doing for Ecamm people. Can you do that for our community? I'm like, sure. And what was so crazy, I was making videos for those other companies using Ecamm. And I told them, I said, hey, I'm not signing any kind of exclusive deals because I'm not leaving Ecamm because I know
Right.
where home is and I
Right.
know where I started. I know why I am the size I am. Um, and so, yeah, so brand deals start coming through before I was even monetized on YouTube. And um, other brands came calling, and not even graphics brands came calling because they just liked how I made content and kept the audience engaged. So it's been a fun ride, and for some people, it might even be like, okay, that's kind of why are you backing away from something that was good, right?
Right.
Um,
Before you go
because
there, I do want to say, I want to go backwards enough to say that you, in your mind, you were being a servant to the people. And I want to say this to everybody that is a content creator, no matter what type of content you're creating, let's start there with an opportunity, a mindset that, hey, I want to serve my audience.
right,
Okay? Because reason why we're talking to Bradley is because he has a nice size he has a big audience for what he was doing. He was serving them. There's a lot of people that transition their content, but when you're at the size of Bradley's content and his audience, how do you do that effectively? The first thing
Right.
is you gotta have an audience. How do you get that audience? Is by serving them, answering their questions, uh, fulfilling a need for them. So everybody, I just, as you're watching here, and if you're getting, I thank you, Aubrey, for hanging out, coming through. For everybody that's here, and you're trying to learn how to use Ecamm, you're trying to build content, you're trying to gain an audience. I'm telling you, that's step number one. Why did we go to Bradley? We went to Bradley because guess what? He was teaching us how to use a free software that we already had, Keynote, inside of inside of Ecamm, using
Yeah.
it to build overlays that we could use inside of Ecamm. Now he did transition to
Yeah.
doing Canva, and we have a wonderful 4-day Bradley teaches Canva coming up. We want to be sure that you watch that
Yeah.
starting tomorrow. Bradley will be on
Tomorrow.
Ecamm Live on the YouTube channel teaching, so everybody needs to watch it. So it has not gone away that he's a
Yeah.
great servant answering questions to help our community. Now, if you're
And
somewhere,
and
go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, I mean, what I'll say, that's awesome what you just said, because that's exactly what it is. But I'll sum it up in 3 words: influence before income. Because
Yes, yes, I get
you,
it. I get it.
yeah, the best way to know what your audience wants is let them tell you. Bradley Teaches never would have existed without the Ecamm community.
That's
I was
right.
just in there hanging out. Everybody stuck at home. I didn't have enough other work to keep me busy. Um, I actually bought Ecamm way back when they had a lifetime purchase that you could do from a company called AppSumo.
Right. I
I
use
bought
AppSumo.
Ecamm years before the pandemic,
Wow.
and didn't use it because I didn't really have time to go live and do stuff.
Right.
So the pandemic hit. I was like, okay, I got this streaming software. Everybody's streaming now. Let me dust this thing off, see what this Ecamm software is. And I'm just in the group hanging out, chilling. And one day somebody said, I heard you can do this with Keynote, but I can't figure it out.
Right.
That's how it all started.
Let me show you how
Uh,
it's done.
yeah. And
So,
I
so,
didn't know because I didn't use Keynote years, maybe 10 years before that. I hadn't used Keynote.
so let me also put this in perspective, guys. Now, I may be off on the timeline a little bit, but it was Bradley teaches teaching. It was Bradley teaching Keynote. I don't even know what Bradley teaches was there yet. That
It wasn't.
influenced some of Doc Rock's content. Okay, guys. So even from the beginning, all of us was watching what Bradley was doing to teach us how to do overlays, graphic overlays in Keynote that we can then pull over, including our guy that we love, Doc Rock. So I just want to put that out
Yeah.
there, and then there's Bob here. I've learned so much from Bradley when I was forced to transition from music director to live stream tech guy in my church during the 2020 and in the height of the lockdown. Guess what, Bob? I was the ministry. My title is pastor of ministries, so I'm over all of the auxiliaries and all of the volunteers. Well, guess what you didn't have during the pandemic? No volunteers. The church was closed. And I had to really find something to do. Not that I didn't have a problem with not having a job. It was just like I wanted to be useful. So guess what? We're streaming now. Let's figure this out. And at the church, they have a PC that we were running vMix on that I absolutely loved. And at home, I have a Mac. So guess what? I couldn't use vMix. So guess what I found? Ecamm. And then once
Right.
I got into the Ecamm community, it was over at that point. So I'm with you, Bob. Same thing. And
It's kind of crazy. There's no. I don't know if there's any real old heads in here other than me and you right now. Um,
right,
but what's so funny when we first started with Ecamm, I call it first started. Ecamm started to grow in the pandemic because
It
everybody started
did.
to go live.
It did. So I
Everybody
talked
knows
to
this,
Katie
right?
about
Zoom
this,
got
and,
bigger. Yeah.
and they had a ticker inside of the office during that time, and where they were just getting clicks and clicks before then, it started rapidly moving as people were starting to
Yeah.
download Ecamm for the first time. Go ahead.
And I didn't mean old as an age. I mean old as in Ecamm old heads.
Right.
Yeah. But at the beginning, it was so funny because me and Doc Rock are cool, but we didn't start off really, really cool, right?
Gotcha.
Because we're both professional designers. It was the funniest thing. We're both professional designers. And Doc Rock kind of had this how dare you use Keynote to make graphics. He kind of had that air about him, right? And I'm
Right.
like, I said, hey, man, I'm a pro too, but people don't know how to, people ain't like us. I'm
Right.
showing people how to use something that's simple. And he would make these. He was Doc Rock, so he'd make his little comments, and it's like, okay, dude, who is this dude? And it was so funny how me and him started to gel and mesh after that because it was like just like you got a cousin that you don't get along with, sometimes, right?
Right.
But we're all family. So even within the Ecamm fam, all the lovey dovey that you see, every now and then there's some people getting rubbed the wrong way, but we still love each other, or we grow to love each
Exactly.
other. And that
Exactly.
was so fun in the beginning as we that infancy stage as the Ecamm fam, as you see it so strong in things now. Those little micro conflicts that actually help the software grow and help the community get stronger. And so that was always kind of fun to see that. But yeah,
And
me
not
and Doc
only
Rock, our
that, when you would
introduction to each
come
other
to,
was that.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I have to say, when you
Mhm.
would come to the stream show with me and Brett, even in the beginning, like all of your shows that you would come on would be our highest ranking shows. Like, I don't know if I ever told you that. I probably
Uh-uh.
didn't tell you that so I can get you to come back so you would know that people were watching. No, but everybody loved the shows that we would do together. And for a while there, those shows always outpaced some of the others. So thank you for coming on again.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I
yeah.
want to
It's
say
all
this
good,
hello
man.
to Erica. Erica's hanging out with me. Erica Bates, thank you for coming to hang out with us today. Um, so you're right. There's so many different ways to do the graphics, but I really feel like you picking up like your explanation of saying how I'm using Keynote because everybody has this. Now it was tough for me because I never used Keynote. I was by that time I think I was using Canva by that time, so I never kind of picked up using Keynote. So it was a huge learning curve for me. So I don't do Keynote. I don't do Photoshop. I do graphics, but I don't even know like if I ever say, hey, I want to be a graphic designer, and somebody asks me, what do you design in Canva? Like, do you do Photoshop? No. Do you do Illustrator? No. I may not get the job, but I could do some really, really cool things, some really cool thumbnails in Canva, and I love it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. All these things are just tools for your tool belt. You know, why, and it's a little cheesy, a little tagline-ish or whatever on marketing, but it's like, I have 30 years of experience, so you don't need to, right?
Gotcha.
So it's like if you're using Canva, I'm gonna show you how to use Canva.
Right.
And the only reason I actually switched to not switch, only reason I added Canva is because so much of the world is using it. And it's a little bit for that crossover audience, non Mac users. So a little bit of stretch beyond Ecamm.
Right.
But even my challenge I'm doing in the next 4 days, it's Ecamm centric. So it's still, I'm not showing you stuff that's going to work with somebody else's product. I'm showing you how to use Canva for Ecamm, right?
Right.
Um, because I know some Mac people still, use Canva too, and with the upgrades to the Ecamm software, it actually gets over some of Canva's shortcomings, right?
Okay.
Because now with the new green screen and things like that, you can overcome some of the things that Canva can't do. So that's kind of going to be the gist of the 4 day thing, and we're going to have some fun and yeah, yeah. But I don't want to give nothing away. Just show up
Hey,
the next four
I'm
days.
intrigued
Yeah,
by it because you always have always said, okay, if your graphic software can't do these three things, uh, you may need to learn how to use this software that can. Is that's still
Right.
like right?
Yeah, I think honestly, the strengths of Keynote for video graphics is still much stronger than Canva's.
Okay,
Where Canva has a leg up on Keynote is its pre-built presentations and its huge array of themes and templates
got you,
that we can now utilize because of green screen, right? And
got you.
so now the object of transparent videos, right, which it couldn't do before. But now, because of green screen, you can literally make video overlays, a real video overlay.
Somebody in
Keynote
Canva?
can't do that. Yeah, because we make the video, put green spots on it for the holes, bring it into Ecamm, use green screen, and now you have a literal video overlay,
You know
right?
how I would get
And so
around that in the past? I did an extra step to get around that because I would just
took
throw
it
it
to the
in
software
Premiere
package.
Pro.
Yeah,
I would take it to Premiere Pro, do the keying, the Ultra key, and I would
right.
take that out and then put it into Canva. So you're saying not Canva, but Ecamm. So now you're
Ecamm
saying that Ecamm could do that, and you don't have to worry
don't
about.
have to. Right. And my thing is there's a ton of other software if you want to make awesome overlays and animations. We all know that. Or maybe we all
Gotcha.
don't know that. What I always put the extra burden on myself to do is figure out how to do it with free software. That's what just kept me creative, right?
I
I'm not
got
going to
it.
spend no money, but I'm going to make some graphics not as awesome as After Effects,
Right.
but very good. That's going to make your show or your live stream that much better than everybody else's.
I love that. I love that the attitude because I was on the total end of it. I was only doing stuff that was paid for products. Like whether it was After Effects, whether it is, Envato Elements, like taking some of their templates and using it. I was doing all of that.
Right.
But I like the fact that if you're really trying to help people, you say, hey, the level to entry to do this is very low because this software is free. It makes a lot of sense. And that goes back to you being a servant to the people. And I think that's so important for people to always hear in what we're talking about today, because I'll go back and say this again. You can't transition your content without an audience to transition. Basically, you're
Right.
just changing. You're changing your content and not transitioning. So when you have an audience, we're talking about somebody that has a real audience that's now saying, hey, I'm going to do something different. That being said, I think I've set the plate for everybody to understand that Bradley teaches. Bradley talking about graphics and helping all of us do better graphics and the reason why you should do these graphics and how to do them and how to move, all those things that he was teaching us. Now he's saying, I'm going to do that in an automated form, but I really want to talk about grief. Now,
Yeah.
this grief is going back to something that you wanted to do years ago. The pandemic stopped you. Tell me, like, when you say, I want to focus on grief, what is that focus? What is that content really going to be about?
Yeah. A little bit back from that. In 2016, I started serving the grieving community after the loss of my granddaughter. And I was going out speaking at churches. I was speaking at grief conferences. My then 10-year-old, was he 10? Might have been 9. 9-year old grandson helped him write a book about grief, about children's grief. And we had just went on television late February. They actually had us on television for the tragic event of Kobe Bryant and his daughter. We did the newscast that day for his funeral. And so things were starting to roll. We were starting to help people and serve people. Then the pandemic hit in March, sent everybody home. It just kind of dried up, so to speak. And that's how, now, then you know the Bradley teacher story. Um, Now, the audience that I'll be serving or going back to serving in the grieving community is really the grieving community. Now, there are a couple of key areas that I'm going to be leaning into. Um, One of them is, grief in the workplace, or people that are grieving, that have to go to work, or employees or executives, kind of doing that type of thing in the LinkedIn universe, so to speak. My old YouTube channel called the Grieve Coach, not grief, Grief, but Grieve, the Grieve Coach. That's an acronym that I created. It's more so for the believers that are grieving, because I'll be using some of my, what I call my biblical knowledge and ministry work, also helping people through the grieving process. So those are kind of two of the major areas. And then just kind of people are grieving all kinds of different things, or not necessarily grief by loss through death. So just kind of being that voice to encourage and empower people in the general audience, also not necessarily, you don't have to be a believer for me to work with you, kind of thing. So that's kind of where it is. And it's a it wasn't a big audience before. It was very local, very centralized. I mean, I did go out and speak at conferences at Washington D.C. and other places, but I wasn't known because I had just started, right? And then the pandemic happened, and so now I'm kind of coming back brand new again. So there's some scariness in that, because people don't know me for that. People didn't know me for that. The Ecamm audience knows me for one thing. Well, 99.5% of it does.
Right.
Some of the Ecamm fam knows that I'm a minister. They know that I work in the grieving community. But that was never pushed in Ecamm. That was always through DMs and phone calls and text and things
Right.
like that, right? So like Sister Felicia, I call her my sister.
Uh-huh.
Um, Her and I talk a lot of ministry things, and other things on a brother sister level. We're tight
Gotcha.
like that, and so there. And you, right?
Right.
Some folks know. Everybody didn't know, right? And it was never hidden, but it just wasn't a forum for that. I didn't want to be
Right.
the grief and graphics guy. I want to be Bradley Teaches, serving you guys how you want to be served. And so that's why I never talked about it in Ecamm. Talked about it on the church Ecamm page, because
That's what
that
it's for.
fits.
Uh-huh.
Right. It didn't fit in the general Ecamm community, and but when people knew that's what I did, I would get DMs about different things and talk to some people in the Ecamm fam about different things. So that was a blessing for me too, that people trusted me with that.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
so yeah, but that's kind of where it is, man. So yeah, it's really transitioning to something brand new, literally brand new LinkedIn channel, brand new YouTube channel. And it's so funny because I know Bradley Teaches was community created, and that instant 100 subscribers without any videos, that ain't happening on my grief channel.
Wow. So
I
so
think I
I'm
might
I'm glad
have,
you're saying
yeah,
that. I'm glad you're
yeah.
saying that because I want people to know, and I thank Dan for writing this in the comments. Like, you may not say this, but opportunities to be able to talk about this is a great thing. So if you're watching today and you have some type of influence where people could actually hear Bradley, I want to say Bradley teach on grief and have these opportunities, because yes, he is going all in as a part of what he wants to provide the community now. And so you're saying the grief community is a little smaller. So now you're going to have to take the time that you took to build Bradley Teaches with this the grieving coach, and it is a niche that I do believe will grow, because people grieve all the time. I really feel like through the pandemic that this would be a great time to start, because there's so many
Yeah.
lives that were lost during the pandemic. Like, people needed to know how to process it. So we really do have people that still haven't processed the loss of
Right.
loved ones because it happened so fast, not being able to see them before they were gone because couldn't get into the hospitals. All these things,
Right.
people are probably still grieving because
And
of what happened through.
grieving, yeah, and grieving not necessarily loss by death,
Got you.
because loss of livelihood, loss of health, loss
Right,
of relationship, loss of what I call perceived freedom,
right, right.
right? And so it's all these things, right? Um, and the pandemic pushed that to the front. And and like I said, that's not the core of what we'll be talking about tonight, but more so the transition itself. Because I didn't want to make this a grief talk, but um, but I think it has a place, right? Because it
Right.
is a universal thing that people deal with and things like that. But it's more so transitioning content to me, even right. What I call food work and heart work,
Okay. Explain that
and
to me.
so food work is work that you use to put food on the table.
Okay. I get it.
Heart work is work that you're gonna do whether you get paid or not. Is from the heart. It's 100% serving whatever it is, right? My heart is making me do this work. Now,
Right.
your heart can be into food work, but a lot of people, back to serving a community.
Mm-hmm.
My grandson loves RC cars or loved RC cars for a little while. So he decided to do a YouTube channel. And I told him, I said, what are you going to do for people that wants to do RC cars? Well, I'll just unbox them. He saw me doing stuff, right? So I'm just gonna
Right.
unbox them. I'm gonna talk about them, and they'll see me race them. I said, okay. I said, but what other kids are you going after? I said, what kind of budget do these kids have, right? And so those kind of things, right? So I said, you need to be focusing on RC cars that are under $80. Carve out a niche. But he wanted $100 RC car and a $300 RC car. I'm like,
Right.
but that's not your audience because most adults are not going to watch a child talk about RC cars,
Right.
right? I said, and so he was worried about the stuff he wanted and not the stuff his potential audience wanted.
Audience one. Got it.
So that's why his channel didn't do well, right? But that was his heart work he was trying to turn into food work. But
Right.
he was focused on himself as a client or a customer or a watcher of content, not his real audience. And sometimes we make that mistake. Now, if it's hard work, go do it. You get one subscriber, you happy because it's
Right.
your hard work. That's what I want to do. If you want to buy groceries with that, you got to figure out what them other people want.
Exactly.
And it's even the same thing with the grief I'm going through now, right? So I'm transitioning my hard work into food work because I wanted to buy groceries, but there's all kinds of stuff intertwined in that. Okay, it's ministry, it's talking about bad stuff. How do I charge people when they're hurting? And you got to get over all these hurdles,
Right.
right? And so, but I found what I believe are groups inside of the global group that want my expertise.
Okay.
So I'm trying to feed them this content, not sell them nothing, right now, but I want to come in and train at offices on how to be more compassionate offices. I want to
Okay.
train people on suicide prevention because I work with people mostly on the back end of grief. How about working on the front end to prevent grief from happening, right?
Right.
From tragedies from happening. Because I'm also a chaplain with the fire and police departments here locally. So I go out a lot after tragedy has happened.
Wow.
But if I can get on the front end and serve people, because there's an audience, there's a group that wants that training and wants to know, I want to be able to see the signs. I want to be able
Right.
to talk somebody down, so to speak, to
Right.
help them be safe for now so they can get other help. And so
Now, are you
there's
connecting
spaces within
with,
this work.
I'm sorry, are you connecting with groups, like Facebook groups in your community? Like that's close to you
I'm
that you can
working.
get to?
I'm kind of doing it both ways right now. So I'm actually moderating a lot of grief communities. I don't sell things in there, but it's like I start off with Ecamm, right? I'm just giving them content, just
Right.
pouring content on them to help them get through the day, get through the month, get over whatever humps they have. In the LinkedIn world, I'm trying to join groups of people that are potentially my audience that can help other people, either
Gotcha.
grieving people or people that are caring for the grieving community. So, and even a level of this food work I'm trying to make it is still going to be hard work too. Because I know some people can't pay, some people won't pay, whatever. That's not going to prevent me from doing this work. Um, so yeah,
Because
so
you're
there's that.
transitioning from hard work to food work. I get it. So your transition is okay. It's kind of like it has layers to it because I'm thinking about hey, you're just transitioning to doing less of the graphics and doing more of the grief. But even inside of that grief, there is certain levels to get to where you can actually monetize the work.
Right,
If
right.
somebody is
Um,
listening to us now, like, and I want to be clear because I want to be sure they have the basics of if you are planning to transition your content, which at some point people will go through this, and it doesn't matter what your content is, was, or
right.
what you want it to be. What are some of the steps that you want to be clear about with people to help them along the way?
Yeah, and it's kind of like when you're changing gears with anything, right? You just have a different desire now. I saw some people said they were a musician, now there's something else, or was something else now a musician. I was a school teacher, but now I want to be a full time artist. All those things have trepidation and fear in them, but I think you have to go into whatever that transition is, knowing or having an idea of what you want the end game to be. What does success look like in that transition? Is
Right,
it just transitioning, or is it I want to be a full time artist selling commission paintings, right? So now you're going to have to start doing that research. And you also have to realize you might have to leave that old audience behind. You literally can't try to scalp off the old audience and make a new audience out of them. That's because, like I said, 99.5% of the Ecamm fam have no idea that I do grief work. And that's fine with me. And I'm not going to go into the Ecamm group trying to find grieving people. You know what I mean? And so,
oh yeah, I think people make the mistake with that. I think they do.
yeah, because it's like, oh yeah, you guys used to like my copywriting service, and now I'm a full time audience. Let me shoot out a mass email to my copywriting audience and tell them I'm a artist now, right?
Right,
That's not how that works. It's
right.
it could be some folks in there that just love you, and whatever you're doing, they're gonna try to support it. And
Got
I
you.
know I have people like that. But most of the Ecamm audience could care less about grief. They want somebody that's gonna help them make a lower third.
Right,
And I'm fine with that. There's no trepidation in that. Um, and so you have to know that, right? And so on my personal Facebook page, I transitioned it. And it's like, hey, you guys have known me for doing financial ministry and graphics and grief. Most of the content you're about to be seeing now on my page is going to be grief related.
got you.
And that's just how they know, right? That's not that could alienate some folks, that can make people unfriend me, but that's my personal Facebook page, and that's the direction I'm going,
But people
right?
that are on that page are connected to you, not just
Right.
the, you know,
And
they, of
they
course they're
know
getting
me.
graphic. They know you. Okay.
Right. They
Right.
kind of know me, right? Now a lot of people on my Facebook page ask to be my friend because of Ecamm,
Right.
right? And if they've been anywhere around my page for any length of time, some grief related stuff has shown up.
Right.
So they probably like, okay, what's the deal with this? Right. So it's not a big surprise to them. Now, if
Right.
I started posting up, you know, November is National Grieving Grandparent Day in the Ecamm group, that's a disconnect, right?
Right.
And not that I'm two faced or two different people. I'm still Bradley, the servant, but in Ecamm, I'm serving you with graphics.
Right.
Over here, I'm serving you from the grief area. And so that's the thing. It's like, so where is that audience at? Like you said, join Facebook groups, join groups on LinkedIn, join local groups, dive into that, search for things that if you were your new audience member, what kind of keywords and things would they be searching for? What kind of groups would they be in? And because it's grief work, some of that stuff gets heavy, and it's like, okay, I'm going to have to pause this group for a month because it gets heavy, right? And it depends
Gotcha.
on what your transition is. It could be all light stuff. My stuff tends to get heavy.
Gotcha.
So I got to take breaks from people. It's like some of y'all grief people, I can't hang with y'all right now. It's just too
Wow.
heavy. And then
Wow.
I'll take a break and go back. And so it's some of those things too. And your transition can make a lot of those things happen. Um, but it's best to not try to act like you wasn't that other thing first, but do a true transition. And as I've been telling people this past month or so, it's kind of like my swan song right now with Bradley Teaches. It's not going away, but it's becoming a lot more automated.
Gotcha.
And the idea that, okay, I'm not going to be doing as much. Oh, make me a lower third. I'm not going to be doing as much of that. It's going to be like, go find this in my shop. And then, and I get a wild hair one day and design one to throw it in the store, right? Or somebody asks for one in the group, and I'm like, oh, I'll just knock that out for you real quick, like I did for
Gotcha.
somebody else when it was New Year's, right? But it won't be a lot of that anymore. You will mostly be seeing me now in this kind of form or in the challenge kind of thing, like with Ecamm,
You
the
can.
4 day challenge. I'll be doing that. Then I might disappear 2 or 3 months because I'm neck deep in my grief stuff.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So I'm around, but it's like grief work Bradley teaches
I get it.
versus like that.
I
So
get it. So making that transition, I mean, you have us to where you just want to research it in the beginning. And I'm going back through the notes that I had to write here because I think it's important to get all of this. Let me do this really quick because I missed it earlier. Johnny E, hey man, what's up? Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. And Dan is like, hey, already began the transition. Like he was just trying to help us out while we were talking about it. And my man Kirk has stopped through to hang out with us. Kirk, man, how you doing? And legends. Well, we got at least one legend that
hey,
way
I'm
hanging out
on
with us
your
today.
show, so that should let
You
you
know what
know
I'm
who the
saying?
legend is. You got a show.
um, so you want to research it. You want to be sure that you don't try to take people from your old audience. I used to tell people this all the times. Like I'm still teaching YouTube to people, and when you teach YouTube is different than what people think it is. So they think, hey, I build a channel and then I email all of my friends and family and do social media, subscribe to my channel. And that is it's not intuitive. That's intuitive way to do it. That seems like the right thing to do. Let me get subscribers from friends and family. But depending on what your content is, that's not your audience. So the best
Right,
thing to do is to build a YouTube channel with a niche in mind, same things you're saying, research it out and find an audience and allow YouTube to find that audience for you. So when you get subscribers, guess what? There are people that not
right,
just like you because they know you, but like the material, the content, the niche that you are teaching on.
right.
And you're saying this is as you are transitioning, is the same thing, right?
Yeah, and on my personal Facebook page, um, I wrote it with content. So hey, y'all, because a lot of people know me and stuff like that that are on my Facebook page. Number one, everybody's not going to see everything I post because that's just
Right.
how Facebook is, right?
That's how
But I
Facebook is.
posted it, yeah. And so I posted, and I said, "Hey, I'm transitioning now. I want to go full time. My grief work. Asking for your prayers and support. If you know anybody that would need something like this, I'm start up a new blah blah blah. 2 people subscribe, 500 people subscribe. It is what it is. I'm
Right.
not going to hound people for that because I also know that, and I'm gonna keep it universal. I don't want to harp on my transition on my content because I feel like mine is kind of a hard niche, right?
Gotcha.
From the nature of what it is. But in a general sense, just letting people know what you do and letting them know how they can follow you and say it's a transition. I think just being honest with people about what the thing is um, will build that, right? And then all the other rules apply. Clarity attracts.
Right.
So my new YouTube channel for my grief work, I want when somebody clicks that page and they hit it, the right people are gonna be like, "Man, I'm finally home," and the
Found their
wrong
tribe.
people would immediately be like, "I'm
That's
out
not
of
for me.
here,"
Got it.
right? And your banner will do that before they watch any videos.
Gotcha.
Say what you're about, And mine says biblical wisdom for your grief journey.
Wow.
You're not a believer. You're not grieving. You're not trying to care for nobody that's grieving. That ain't the page for you. And the
Gotcha.
banner lets you know right up front. And so if somebody else hits it, they're like, man, I'm home. I finally found a place that can help me with my grief. Right. And so it's that kind of thing, right? Clarity will attract and push away people that's not your audience. And then you just kind of keep on doing what you do. And Kurt is a perfect example of that, just kind of relationship he and I have. He has not a nightly show, but a weekly show. They kind of do it late at night, so I kind of catch little tidbits of it. But it was so funny because he and I jailed not from graphics per se. That's how it started because we are both in Ecamm,
Right.
but it went left in a good way, really quick. Because I jumped into one of his live shows one night, and he has other hosts that are very energetic, very
Mm-hmm.
charismatic, and I jumped in there and I started talking about grief, and they were like, "Hold up." And it was like, wow. And so it just happened, right?
Right.
And it was amazing. And I'm trying to get back on that show as soon as I can too. But it was like it was that felt like my people,
Gotcha.
right? The same way that Ecamm feels like my people, because they're very energetic, very creative. They want to learn, they love on each other and encourage each other. When I went on Kirk's show, that wasn't graphics related. There's people in there chopping it up, encouraging one another, giving tough love to each other, and it was like I'm home.
Right.
And we didn't talk about graphics. We talked about life and loss and being true to and it was like I was home. So the people that would watch that show, I know those are my people, right?
Gotcha.
And so even right now tonight, as we're talking about this, and I'm not a numbers watcher and stuff like that, but I'm blunt and I'm for real. I'm gonna bowl down the middle of the alley. The eyeballs are fluctuating right now based on our conversation because some people, as soon as you say Bradley teaches, they just here for the graphics,
Right. They can lock in on that.
right? So we lost some of them when I started talking about grief,
Right.
and you knew that was going to happen too. We both knew that, right?
Well, it's a you
Some
already
people,
said the niche is a
right,
tough niche,
right.
and
Right. And so some people are hanging with us. It's like, no, but he gonna say some graphic stuff and grief stuff like that. And some people here like, man, I know Brad did that. I want to hear some more story, right?
right.
And so it's a mixed audience. And the eyeballs are gonna change as we talk, depending on when they jump in and what we happen to be saying when they jump in,
Right.
right? And that's
So
the
so
same thing your transition is gonna do.
and let me say this about what I have the opportunity to do inside of the Ecamm community. Um, I do a lot of shows. I automatically title them the journey, but I talk about the content creator journey. And this is
Right.
helpful for every content creator, no, regardless of what your niche may be. Like we understand Bradley teaches. We know you for your graphics, and for you to be going through this journey, which is real life. This is real life stuff. This is
Right.
not this is I play a graphics person on TV or on my streaming, like
Right.
you're mixing in
Right.
where you use your time to do through the pandemic to be helpful to other people to say, you know what? I was doing that. I felt like I was being helpful, but my true calling is to help people through grief. And my true calling could be for other people to help people be the best umpire. You know, we got people that are
Right.
doing umpire. My
Right.
true, we got travel agents or people that talk about travel. We got people that talk
Yep.
about streaming and the best software and the best this and the best camera and the best mic. We got all kinds of content creators. But I think you said it earlier. When you could take an idea that is a heart idea, this is where my heart resides, this is where I feel real purpose, and then over time transition that to where it could put food on the table, that's where you have a win. And if people don't hear anything else than that, that is a great way to kind of educate other content creators of what's going to give you longevity, because your grief portion is going to give you longevity. I mean, you were always a graphics person, right? Professionally, you were a
Yeah.
graphic. That's how you got paid. That's how you put food on the table. But your heart was for ministry, and now because of life experience, helping people through grief is where your heart is. I guess
Right.
the question for people that are watching is where your heart as you are
Right.
building content.
And what's crazy is that I think the pandemic. That was beautifully said, man. I appreciate that.
And
Well,
you know I'm a preacher too, right? I'm sorry. I just had to
there you
go
go.
in that
Yeah.
mode for a second. I'm gonna raise an
Yeah. And
offering before we get done.
there you go. You got to put that cash app on there. It
Yeah.
w- what's amazing, and I think what is probably given people kind of, I don't want to call it false success, but I think the pandemic gave some people easy early success
Okay.
because we were all at home, and it didn't take much to rise to the top,
To gain an
you know,
audience.
because, right. So a little bit of a better mic, people started listening to your podcast more. A little bit of a better camera, people started watching your videos more than the next guy, right? And now, as the pandemic kind of made everybody make a studio, and everybody's getting their gear game up, and everybody's getting their ums and ahs out of their speech and becoming better presenters, we have to really lean into what I call what we're supposed to be doing versus what was easy, because that's what's also going to fulfill you in the long run. Now, I love doing graphics. I believe it's a talent that I was born with, being an artist, and then I learned how to design by going to school. But my calling is just at a different level. And I'm one of those old heads by age that someone thought we was talking about earlier when I said
Right.
old heads. And what kind of legacy am I going to leave? And not saying that graphics aren't important, and not saying that I don't enjoy helping people enhance their things. But in the long run, people can still go buy graphics from Evato, right?
Right.
Now, Evato can't do it like me. Other people can't present like me. I'm gonna be not arrogant, but confident in that.
Right.
And people like me, and I like people, and I love teaching people. But at a certain level, I was made for something more, and I'm gonna give this new thing a chance to be what I believe it can be. Not that the graphics work won't always be a part of what I'm doing, but it's not going to be the thing I desire to be known for. Now, the market, the niche, the community, the audience, whatever you want to call it, can say different. And this new community that I'm trying to transition into serving,
Hmm.
quite frankly, can reject me,
Right.
and they can reject any of us. But I'm going to give it a legitimate shot. And like I
I
said,
like
I'm
that.
pushing all the chips on the table. I'm betting on me. I'm believing on me. I'm trusting and having faith, and we'll see. But that's part of the try it out, right? Because I didn't know Bradley Teacher was going to be anything. I
Right.
didn't know it was worth buying a domain name. I didn't know it was worth buying polo shirts with a logo on it. I didn't
Man,
know none
it
of that
blew
stuff,
up too. It really
right?
blew up. Some people
out of
call it
nowhere.
the wave. So as you were talking about, the pandemic could give you a false sense of success. YouTube had a couple of different waves to where if you were on making content and that wave happened, you were being pushed to the forefront. I would say that happened through the pandemic. If you were making content, because I know me, I was on every day basically for a couple of years through the
Yeah.
pandemic until I got really, really tired. But I mean, I caught that wave of just being available to people to be able to help. And I don't know if I had any kind of real help, success, for any of that, but I just did. So let me do this real quick. I want to interrupt what we're doing. Mike, I see your question. I'm going to get to your question in just a second. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Tony, thank you for hanging out with us tonight as well. I had a question about Kerwin here about a book. Do you have a book that you've produced already, written already? Or it was your
Uh,
grandson's book?
about graphics or about grief. My grandson wrote a book called "What This Kid Wants Adults to Know About Grief." I have a book that was really my my graduate paper that I made into a book. So it's
Gotcha.
yeah, you can call it, but it's free. It's called "Good Grief: Why Believers Can Grieve with Hope." But I'm actually writing two books right now.
That's awesome.
One of them is kind of an anthology of interviews I've done with people through their grief journey. And then
Wow.
I'm writing a book about men's grief. So those are two books that are in the works right now. And I'll be producing a lot more content that's printable because I have guides and things like that, which will probably be mostly free.
Right.
Excuse me, but yeah, but I have two books in the work right now. Uh, on Amazon, if you look up by my name, my legal name, not Bradley Teaches, but Bradley Vinson, if you look me up by that name on Amazon, I think you should be able to find my books. Um,
Gotcha.
I wrote a financial book many, many years ago,
So buy
which we're
all
probably
his
going
books. Look him up. You'll be able to tell his smiling face. You'll be able to see. So I'm gonna join on with Mr. Riley's world, James Riley here, and say I want to give you your flowers, man. We love riding with Bradley Teaches because you brought value to the community. You
appreciate it.
have done a lot. I mean, I've watched several things. Some of it, you know, what I'm saying I'm not a keynote person, so it was hard for me to catch up. But the what I did get was very useful for me because if I couldn't do it in Keynote, I could then take that same idea and try it into the other platforms I was using. So I really, really, really did appreciate that. And another person extremely valuable, Pastor Mitchell here is chiming in. Johnny E, a lot of value, like and I don't know how often you get a chance to hear from people inside of the community, but I'm just giving you flowers from what the people are saying, Bradley. I mean, I know you're not
I
going
appreciate it.
anywhere. We have
Oh, yeah.
4 days of Bradley coming up. Don't want you to miss out on Bradley giving us some graphic information on how to use Canva with Ecamm starting tomorrow. Do you know what time it will be live?
Um, 10 a.m. Central.
10 a.m. Central, and that's going for all the way through Thursday. One, two, three, four. Is it
Yeah,
five?
four
So
days.
for
Four
four
days.
days, Monday through
Yep.
Thursday, you get an
Thursday.
opportunity to get this great teaching. So it was great for me to have him on to talk about, to advertise those 4 days, but to also help other people that are thinking about transitioning their content, even if you're trying to now build content. What we talked about today will definitely be able to help you because this is some important stuff where you could take what Bradley says, where your heart is. I want to put my hands because I talk with my hands, where your heart is to where the food is, to where you can actually build content that's from your heart that you're really passionate about, but can also put food on the table. That's where you want to be. Man, this has been awesome. You help me out with one more thing before we get out of here tonight,
Oh yeah,
Bradley.
for sure.
So I met this guy at the People of Video a couple of years ago. I guess that would be 2022. Yes, because I didn't have it this year. So Mike has I got his content on LinkedIn and on Instagram, and I love the fact that he is a coach. He does diet stuff more, but I think he
Oh,
has a
cool.
gym. He has a gym. So, and he also teaches what to eat. And he has a question here, and of course, I'm gonna stop for you, Mike. You know what I'm saying? To help, because we're that type of community. Hey guys, I've got 80,000 TikTok followers, but my account was suspended. My appeal was quickly rejected for guideline violations. I'm positive I did not violate any community guidelines. Any advice, Mike? Um,
Yeah,
Go ahead,
a lot
Bradley.
of these sites, yeah, a lot of these sites are hard to contact and dispute things like that. And 80K on TikTok, so they didn't, so you don't have anybody you can directly contact because that's an awesome number, but it ain't huge numbers for TikTok. Because sometimes they'll assign you someone once you get so big that you can contact directly for disputes like this. So you're gonna kind of be at the level of sending all the help desk emails you can. There's no phone number for TikTok that I know of. Um, I know other people that have been suspended from other places, but not TikTok per se. But the general method is you have to go through and if they sent you an email that you were suspended, that's your contact now.
So
And
he
so you
he
can
said he
ask,
tried to appeal and was quickly rejected for guideline violations.
I would ask exactly what the guideline violations were. Sometimes somebody can report you from something that they didn't like you said, and they're always going to lean on someone saying they were harmed by you. And so ask for arbitration that you can plead your case to someone. Um, Worst case scenario, you might have to start over, but don't go that route necessarily yet. Um, Yeah, and so like I see now you say you don't think a human saw it, and frankly, a lot of these places are going to automated eyeballs now because
Yeah,
a slight
AI.
tangent. Yeah, I'm also a Amazon influencer, and I use the word loosely. And when you submit a video, they're checking your videos now with AI. So if you
Hmm.
say 50, the AI just heard you say a number and you can't have prices in your videos, so it kicks you out. So you have to say several, right?
Gotcha.
You can't, so it's certain words you can't use because all it's doing is listening with no context. But at least with Amazon, I can email or try to get on the help desk with someone on the phone. TikTok doesn't have that. So you got to have to keep shaking that bush until you find a person, unfortunately. But I've heard of people just starting channels over because of said reasons that you're having. But I would just keep at it until you feel like there's nothing else you can do. And sometimes just being consistently send an email every day replying to that sentence saying, "Hey, I need to talk to a person. What can I do? What can I do? I need to know exactly why you booted me," that kind of thing. But
Well,
I'm sorry
Mike,
that's not real advice, but that's all I can give you.
it's TikTok is a very tough one. If there was a platform, I would say, I would spend a lot of my time building a YouTube channel. It's much easier um, to build, and even if you have issues, there's ways to. It's not solving your TikTok problem, so I apologize. That's a tough one to do, but I would rather you be taking your time and building content on YouTube. Much better for long-term monetization for you, the whole nine. TikTok makes everybody feel good when you see these big numbers and so many views, but that does not always transition to any type of monetary payment to you. So you want to think about that. And uh, also, I want to say this,
Okay.
Mike, um, is Instagram. I see you on Instagram a lot, so I probably need to figure out where your YouTube channel is. And I think I also am connected with you on LinkedIn. I will say this: I told my wife the other day. I actually went out and ordered avocados, and I'm actually planning to eat more avocados. I didn't say that right, but because of you, Mike. You know what I'm saying? All of your meal plans say eat avocados. So I'm going to do it, brother. It's not bad. It's not bad. And I know how healthy it is because I listen to your content. So thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Yes, sir.
I'm
Bradley.
gonna look you up too, Mark, because I need to get my kitchen better. I
Oh,
do a
man.
little workout, but I need to get better in the kitchen. So
Right. And cool guy. We just really met once, so I appreciate him hanging out with us tonight. I didn't know he was connected to the YouTube Ecamm family, but thanks, Mike. And let's say this. As you are building your channel, people who have watched it, they're going to be intrigued. How do you want people to connect with you?
talking to me?
Yes, sir, Bradley. How do you want people to
Oh,
connect with
I
you?
thought you're still talking to Mike.
No,
My
no, no,
bad.
no, no. I transitioned, but I
Um,
guess I didn't say it
yeah.
well enough. Bradley, people have watched us tonight, and they're intrigued about what you are doing now with the grief community. How can they connect with you?
Yeah, my Facebook. I'm building a Facebook channel for the Grieve Coach, and everything is Grieve, Grieve, not grief, Grief, because of the acronym that I created for my process of helping people with their grief. But yeah, I'm the Grieve Coach on YouTube. I'm the Grieve Coach on Instagram. I had a TikTok channel, not really using it, or just Bradley Vinson. I'm always open for DMs and things like that. My personal Facebook group, I'm starting to share information. I'm on LinkedIn too. On LinkedIn, it's Bradley Vinson. So I'm just trying to get the content out there. The best way is any of those apparatus because I always check them. Facebook Messenger might be the quickest, easiest way. Um, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
That's
I'm
how we
just,
connect all the
yeah,
time. Like I don't
yeah.
even know if I have your number. Just Facebook message
Yeah,
somebody.
Facebook Messenger, because you can video chat and call through Facebook Messenger, and I've done that a lot. Yeah, so Facebook Messenger me at Bradley Vinson, or look for me on those different channels. My face is my face. I don't do the cartoon face on my grief work, so you'll
Gotcha.
see my actual face in these other places, so you'll recognize it versus the cartoon. But like I said, Bradley Teaches still exists. Bradley Teaches will not be the only thing or all that I am. It's taken a bit of a back burner, but I'm pushing to automate it more and just make things available for people, both free and paid,
That's
and just kind of backing away from one-off graphics helping people. I'm more in that communal group. Let me help 20 people, 100 people at one time kind of thing versus individual helping. If you kind of get my drift on that,
I do.
so
I do. So
yeah.
I'm glad about it. And Monday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, Ecamm YouTube channel, you can see Bradley talk about Canva and how you're able to integrate that with Ecamm. Got 4 days of it, so don't miss out. He's still around helping us, and he's also taking his hard work to do some food work as well. I love it. I love it. So you'll be able to see me next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm here with the stream show. So next week I got Anna and Fulgens coming. We're
Oh,
talking
cool,
all
cool.
things Creator Camp. So Creator Camp is coming up. You coming to that at all? Creator Camp? Have you
No,
thought about
I
it
can't
all?
get away right now,
Can't
man.
get
I'm gonna have
away.
to hang
I
by the
got you.
homestead for a little while right now, but yeah.
So this is gonna happen. October 8th, Anna and Fulgens are coming on, and we're talking about Creative Camp leading up to it. On the 15th, I'm going to do a review or a recap of Creative Camp with interviews from people there and all of that. So you can catch both of these next coming Sundays and feel like you went to it, okay? Because I want to do
Cool.
behind
I'll
the
be there.
scenes and keeping everybody to know of what's happening on the very first one. That being said, that's my time. Bradley, thank you so very much for coming in. And if I didn't make you feel good enough with the encouragement, I hope people in the comments did. And you guys definitely contact him, inbox him anyway, and tell him how much you appreciate all the work that he's done in the community with graphics. Thank you, sir. And I will see you guys next Sunday. See you later. Hey, this is DJ Strick, and I would like to thank you for watching another edition of The Stream Show.